Welcome back to chapter 1 of History, part 2. Historiography, the development in the West. My dear student, in the previous lecture, I told you what is historiography. Historiography is nothing but the writing, a critical writing of historical narrative is considered as historiography. Now, we are going to see the modern historiography. Modern historiography has four main characteristics. So, let us see one by one. The first important characteristic is its method is based on scientific principle. As in the previous lesson, I told you history cannot be studied in the science lab because the events are past. We cannot reproduce, we cannot create these events again, and therefore, historic history is its method is based on scientific principles. It begins with the information of relative questions. So we have to ask question to everything. Must not take thing as told to us. We have to ask question, find out it whether the document or any historical material is relevant, is genuine. We have to find out. The second point is these questions are anthropocentric. Anthropocentric means related to human life. Anthropology is one of the social sciences branch which deals with human life. It means that these questions are about the deeds of the members of ancient human society. Deeds means the activity, what those people have done, ancient human people, what they have done, their activity. Not all their activities, but the extraordinary activities, we have to question it. So it means that these questions are about the deeds of the members of ancient human society of the particular period. So we have to take one particular period. For example, a period of Samrat Ashoka, a period of Babur, or period of Humayun, or period of Akbar, or any period which you choose. We have to take this period, create a questionnaire, and then find out related to human life. History does not suggest any interrelation between the divine and the human deeds. So, any deed which ancient human being has done is not done by divine. Divine means the God. It is not done by God, but it is done by the human being, and therefore we have to find out its authenticity, how authentic it is. So we don't have to believe on divinity or and human being. There is no interconnection between divine and human deeds. The third characteristic is answer to these questions are supported by reliable evidences. So we have to have proof, we have to have evidence that these questions are checked and found correct. So how they are checked? For example, if I say that I have one Bakar, Bakar means an old document during Peshwai or Shivaji's time. So this paper is a Bakar. If I claim, then I have to ask question which period it belongs to, which paper is it used, and when these questions are found correct and true, then we can say that this document is reliable. Number 4, history presents a graph of mankind's journey with the help of past human deeds. For example, ancient people, they were using the stone tools. Later on, they found metal, the copper. Then they started using metal tools. Then they found iron. Then they started using iron tools. Later on, they discovered fire. And after that, the wheel. And ever since the wheel is discovered, the human being started making more and more development and progress. All these are events, chronological events. So history presents a graph. This is a graph of humankind's journey with the help of past human deeds. It is said that the modern historiography with above characteristic has its roots in the ancient Greek historical writings. So it goes back to the ancient Greek historical writing. History is originally a Greek term. Herodotus, the Greek historian of 5th century before Common Era, used it first for his book entitled Histories. So he has used this term history in his book entitled The Histories. So my dear student, kindly underline Herodotus, and his book is called The Histories. And in his book, for the first time in the history, the word history is being used. So let us go to the next topic, development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography. So my dear student, till the 18th century, development of scientific perspectives in Europe and historiography, the Europe had achieved a remarkable progress in the field of philosophy and science. So European people had discovered many things, and philosophically they have found out, checked, and also scientific methods were used. The scholars believed in the study of social and historical truth by applying scientific method. So anything which has to be discovered socially has to be related to truth, and it has to be checked scientifically and found out whether that is correct. The scientists believed in objectivity of the history. Objectivity means not only the kings and their deeds, but related to the agriculture, related to the different economy, trade. All these is important, and therefore it is called objectivity. Not only related to king and what he did, but agriculture at that time, the trade at that time is considered, and we have to therefore these scholars believe in the objectivity of the history. European universities were interested in philosophical discourses revolving around divine phenomena. My dear student, at that time, the European and their philosophy were only revolving around the divine, around the Bible, around the God. And all that is, even the drawing, even the painting, the carvings were done only related to God and divinity. For the first time in the history, in 1737 Common Era, Göttingen University was found in Germany. And the peculiarity of this university is that it had independent department of history. For the first time in the history, Göttingen University had independent department of history. Later on, other universities in Germany also became center of historical studies. Notable scholars. The contribution of many scholars are important in the development of historiography. Let us have a look at the contribution of the few notable scholars. The first scholar among them is René Descartes from 1596 to 1650. René Descartes was the foremost among scholars who insisted on verifying the reliability of historical documents by critically examining them. He was the first one who said that any historical document you get, you have to see it critically and examine it, check it, verify it. Among the rules given by him in his book Discourse on the Method, the following is supported to have a great impact on the scientific method of research. First of all, let me once again tell you that his book name is Discourse on the Method. Please mark it, dear student. All the books and the author you must mark it. So in this book he said never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubts are excluded. That means any doubt regarding any historical document, if you have any doubt, till your doubt is clear, you don't say that this document is true. Therefore, never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubts are excluded. Next scholar is Voltaire. His period is from 1694 to 1778. Voltaire's original name was Francois Marie Araud. He was French. He opined that, along with objective truth and chronology of historical events, considering social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture, etc., was also equally important in historiography. So, for the first time, he said chronology is important, objective truth is important, but along with these two things, certain things are also important, that is, the social tradition, trade at that time, economy of that time, agriculture was how the agriculture was done at that time. All these factors were important. It gave rise to a thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important. Not only chronology and objective truth, but all the aspects of human life, such as social tradition, trade, economy, agriculture, etc. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography. So, my dear student, you came to know that why Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography, because he said you have to consider history from all the point of view, that is social tradition, trade, economy, agriculture, etc. And so these things are important from human life. Anthropocentric it was. Therefore, he is called as modern father of modern historiography. This question will be asked to you in the SSC board, why Voltaire is considered as father of modern historiography, or write a short note on Voltaire, etc. The next scientist is George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. His period is 1770 to 1831. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that the historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. So, what is a logical manner? I'll give you one example and then you will realize it. For example, I say that Krishna is a man. Krishna is mortal. Therefore, all men are mortal. So, this is a logical statement. So, in the same way, he said anything related to history, you have to take it into consideration of logical manner. To him, the timeline of historical event was indicative of progress. So, right from Stone Age man till today, man continuously is making progress. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidence would come forth. That means every time something new will come. For example, if we say that some scholar says that Britishers were good in India, they did quite a lot progress in our country. But some people will also say that they drain economy from, they took all the wealth from here India to their country, and therefore there are always two perspectives. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differ from scientific method. Once again, I repeat, with Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality. They are no less, though they differ from scientific method. So, some scholars will say that Britishers were good. Some scholars will say Britishers were not good. They will differ. But Hegel's point of view, Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quantity. The collection of his lecture and article is published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science. So Hegel's book's name is Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science. He also has written one more book, is called Reason in History, is well known. So two book of his, Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science and Reason in History. Please mark this. They are written by George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. According to Hegel, grasping the meaning of any event happened in terms of two direct opposites. So we say every coin has two sides. In the same way, Hegel also say that we don't have to take things to granted. What is told is true. So we have to also see the other side of the coin. Human mind cannot understand the true nature of that event without understanding the opposite. So we have to consider the positive as well as negative. We have to consider true or false, good or bad. For example, here it is given true or false, good or bad, etc. In order to understand the true nature of a thing, one needs to know both true and false. Not only we always consider that the statement is given and it is true, but we have to also check, ask question whether it is true or false. Similarly, good and bad. This method of analysis, which is based on opposite, is known as dialects. Please mark this, dear student, that this method is called dialects. So it is based on opposites. In this method, a theory is proposed at the beginning, which is called thesis. So this positive theory is called as thesis. Then another theory is proposed, which is contrary, which is negative to the thesis. It is called as antithesis. This is negative or contrary, opposite theory of the thesis. After a thorough logical discussion of the both, a new thesis is proposed, which includes a gist of both positive as well as negative, the thesis and the antithesis. This process of arriving at a new thesis is called synthesis. So, thesis, antithesis, positive, negative, and combining both and coming out with something new is called as synthesis. This is considered as Hegel's theory, Hegel's philosophy. The next philosopher is Leopold von Ranke, 1795 to 1886. According to historiography of the 19th century was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold von Ranke of Berlin University. He spoke about the critical method of historical research. He put emphasis on the utmost importance of information gathered through original document. So he gave importance to original document. We have to have evidence and it should be original. He also stated that all type of documents associated with a historical event need to be examined with greatest care, whether the document is original or it is not original. We have to check, examine the documents with greatest care. He believed that with this method it was possible to reach the historical truth. When you will examine any document with greatest care, then you can reach to the historical truth. Then only you can write the true history. He criticized imaginative narration of history. So in history, you cannot imagine what the king had done. What he had not done, that you cannot imagine. What he has done, that only you have to imagine. So imagination is not allowed in the writing of history. Collection of his article is published in two books entitled The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. My dear student, again you mark this: The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. These two books are written by Leopold von Ranke. Karl Marx, 1818 to 1883. In the later half of the 19th century, a new school of thought arose, keeping in view the new thesis formulated by Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx's history was not about abstract ideas. It was about living people. So it is not abstract idea, not about only wars, but it is about living people. Human relationships are shaped by the fundamental needs of people and the ownership as well as nature of prevalent means of production to meet those needs. So here two things are there. One is the means of production. Who owns it? Means of production. And secondly, the need of it. So, so here automatically society gets divided into two group. That is the owner of the means of production and the workers group. The accessibility of these means to different strata of the society may not be equal. All may not be owner of the factory, so only one or two will be owner and many would be the worker. So means of production belongs to these two people, but the others are just working over there. This inequality causes a division of the society into classes. So society automatically gets divided into two class, that is the owners, the one who holds the means of production, and the second class is the workers. So, a division of society into classes leading to class struggle. Automatically, it leads to class struggle. According to Marx, human history is the history of class struggle. So, for example, the owner and the worker, it's the class struggle. As the class that owns the means of production economically exploits the rest of the classes. So the one who owns it, they exploit. They give lots and lots of working hours to the workers and ask them to slog. The profit, very little part of the profit is given to the workers, but large number of profit is enjoyed by these owners, and therefore class struggle begins over there. Das Kapital, the name of his book, please mark it. Das Kapital, a treatise written by him, is the most referred book all over the world till today. Annals School. At the onset of the 20th century, a new school of historiography arose in France, which is known as Annals School. Annals School gave a new direction to history writing. It was recognized now that history is not only about the political events, kings, great leaders, and accordingly politics, diplomacy, and wars, but also about the climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social divisions, and their collective philosophy, psychology, etc. In the historical times. The Annal School was started by French historians. My dear student, here when we come to this point, that not only kings had their great leaders, but also the local people, climate, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social divisions, and their collective psychology. My dear students, then I also remember again here Voltaire. He also said similar like that we have to consider all these points, and therefore he is regarded as father of philosophy. So dear student, Annal School gave a great thinking over here, that we have to consider the thoughts from all the points of view and not only politics, diplomacy, and wars. Feminist historiography. Feminist historiography means
the restructuring of the history from the perspective of women. Earlier in the history, women were not at all discussed or not at all written anything about them. The writing of Simon de Beauvoir helped in establishing the fundamental of feminism. She was French. The feminist historiography emphasized not only on the inclusion of women in history, but also on the rethinking of the male dominated perspective of history. So, earlier the history was written and it was dominated by male. Now, she said that we have to write the history from the point of view of women. It drew historical research to focus in depth on various aspects of women's life, such as their employment. Now we know that women is working in different strata of life. She goes out of the house, she works. Next, their role in trade union institution working for their causes. There are quite a many institutions who works for the causes of women. Their family life. When she's working, she has to come back and she has to look after her family too. So, etc. From all these point of view, the history has to be written. In the historical writings after 1990, women were portrayed as an independent social class. So, women are now independent, not dependent on men, but they are independent now. Michel Foucault, 1926 to 1984. The French historian of the 20th century, Michel Foucault, brought forth a new concept of historiography. He, in his book, Archaeology of Knowledge, kindly mark this book as Michel Foucault's book, Archaeology of Knowledge. He argued that the prevailing practice of arranging historical events in a chronological order is not right. So, all the time we were saying that chronological order has to be there in the history. Here, Michel Foucault says it is not right. Then he drew attention to the fact that archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth, but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. Foucault felt that explaining the transition in history is more important. So here he doesn't give any emphasis to chronology, but the transition. He said transition of the history is more important. He called his method the archaeology of knowledge. Please again you mark this answer in one sentence. You will be asked what is the method of Michel Foucault is called. So it is called as archaeology of knowledge. Foucault subjected to so far acknowledged areas by historians such as physical, such as psychological disorder. That means the mental disorder, science of medicine, that means medical field, prison administration, the the people who are put in prison, how they are looked after, how the administration is done. For example, Kiran Bedi, she used to give them training in yoga, and therefore she brought quite many changes in the prison. So prison administration, from all these point of view also we have to take into consideration, and then write, come to a conclusion, write the historical analysis. Thus the scope of historiography kept continuously expanding. writing of histories of various subjects like literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing, and painting, music, dance, drama, film, and television, etc., came into practice. So, my dear students, so many things in the history uh, came into practice, and we have to write the history. We don't have to consider only the criteria of arranging it according to the chronology, but we have to think it from quite a many different point of views. So here history is written from overall point of view. So my dear student, here we have come to an end about the historiography, the Western perspective. In the next chapter, we are going to study about historiography, the Indian tradition. So, my dear student, I request you to please write this all the question and answers neatly in your notebook so that I will check it as you come to school back. So, have a nice day.